listening to The Jake Asman Show on the SportsMap Radio Network.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage.
Live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Jake Asman.
Big night for basketball fans. The play-in tournament continues. Of course, the highlight of the entire play-in tournament, LeBron and the Lakers against Steph and the Warriors. For more on that game and the playoffs as a whole, we go out to our progressive guest line right now. We bring on a good friend to the show. He is the host of the Dunks and Discourse podcast with the Blue Wire Podcast Network. Jabari Ali Davis joins our show. Jabari, appreciate your time this morning, my friend. I hope all is well.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate you having me again, Jake.
Absolutely. So let's start, of course, with the marquee matchup of the week, LeBron versus Steph. I mean, you look at it, Jabari. Obviously, the Lakers would love to not be in this game, but here we are with LeBron in the play-in. What are you expecting tonight? Do you expect both Curry and LeBron to put on a show?
I do, and this is the thing. It's funny. We've had a lot of folks, disparage the play-in tournament or the idea, behind it. But the reality is this, and while I don't necessarily think that, Adam Silver and, the powers that be had this matchup in mind, they couldn't have dreamed about a better matchup. I'm absolutely looking forward to it.
What's the key for the Warriors to actually, pull this off and get an upset win tonight over LeBron and the Lakers?
I mean, obviously, Steph will have to continue to do the Herculean things that he's been doing all throughout the season. It would take, obviously, all of the shooters can also being hot at the same time. But really, beyond the obvious, it would be in Draymond being able to neutralize his matchup. Whether, obviously, at a certain point, they're going to have to defend Anthony, or at least attempt to defend Anthony Davis with Draymond. There's no one, the greats are never going to be shut down. They're never going to be stopped, and certainly not by one player. But if it's kind of like on the Eastern side of things, in the 3-6 matchup, if Bam can be highly effective against Giannis, same thing with Draymond in this matchup. If he can be effective against Anthony Davis and somewhat neutralize him, he's probably not going to be able to outscore him, but neutralize him to the point where he makes his life difficult, and all those shooters are hot and the Lakers are cold. Yeah, anything can happen. And the reason why you heard so many of the murmurings of the Lakers not being happy about this is because they realize, while yes, they are the more talented team, anything can happen in a one-game situation.
Jabari, when you look at the season that Curry has had, he's obviously not going to win the MVP, but you could certainly make a case, given the circumstances, his age, and all the other factors. This has been his most impressive season. Are you still just blown away when you watch Curry play and what he's been able to do this year?
I am blown away because the truth is there were a lot of people, whether it's fair or foul, there were a lot of people going into this season saying, okay, so what do you have now? Now that you don't have, Hall of Fame, backup, now that you have a bunch of, and this is, I mean, no disrespect to to their current players, because obviously they played at a high enough level to be in this situation. But now that you don't have that Hall of Fame roster, next to you, what are you going to look like? And he simply went out there and did it. Led the league in scoring. Put up great numbers once again, and he has his team right here in a situation where, yes, they're not the world beaters, but they're right there, in a playoff, with a playoff opportunity.
Jabari Ali Davis joining us here, talking all things NBA with him. Jabari, as far as the rest of the NBA playoff matchups here, of course, we'll know the 1 versus 8 and the 2 versus 7 in each conference by the end of the week. But from what we know right now, which playoff matchup is your favorite in the first round?
I alluded to it earlier. It's that 3-6, and here's why. While yes, if everybody is playing at their height, it's going to be tough to beat them. So I'm not going to poo-poo them in any way. But I would not be shocked if the winner of this 3-6 matchup with Miami, everybody hitting on all cylinders, if those shooters are hot, or be it Milwaukee, I would not be shocked if the winner of that 3-6 comes out of the East.
Wow. So you think Miami's capable of going on another run here if they were to get by Milwaukee?
And obviously it's contingent upon those shooters being hot, Bam being able to be, like, say for instance in that matchup that I spoke of earlier, No one's going to shut Giannis down. That's obviously not going to take place. But if you can single cover him for the most part, if Bam can be effective, he can stay on the court, stay out of foul trouble, and simply make his life difficult. Yeah, I do think a team like Miami, again, if the shooters are hot as they were, or as hot as they were at points in the bubble, I do think it's possible that they can make a run. Now, obviously, all of that, I started this off by stating if the Nets are hitting on all cylinders, of course, I wouldn't be shocked to see them come out. I'm just saying this is probably the most wide open I've ever seen it in terms of, I could see easily 3 or 4 different teams, a legitimate case being made for 3 or 4 different teams winning this year's NBA title.
And that is something that I think if you're a basketball fan, you've certainly waited a long time for it. Just to follow up on the Brooklyn Nets here, to me, they're the most fascinating team in the playoffs because obviously, talent-wise, there's not a team that probably has 3 better players than they do. But those 3 guys, Harden, of course, Kyrie, and Durant, they played 8 total games together, Jabari. I mean, how does it play out? Do you think the lack of chemistry, the lack of playing time impacts them, or are they just so good that if they stay healthy, they're still going to go right to the finals?
Yeah, I tried to talk myself into that all season. I kept on saying, there will be continuity concerns. There will be familiarity concerns. But, the end of your question kind of wraps it up for me. There's so much talent there that at the very least, they know it. They know what it takes to win, and especially obviously with in KD's case, and obviously in Kyrie's case, they have every motivation in the world to at least come together and do what it takes to be a team this year. So it would not shock me, honestly. It would not shock me to see them win it. I recognize that I've been all over the place in terms of predicting potential winners. But honestly, they have so much talent, they cannot be denied. And if all those guys are hitting and all those guys are on and healthy, fully capable of doing the things that we've seen them do, they absolutely can win it.
How about the Knicks in their first round matchup with the Hawks? I mean, I'm a Knicks fan, Jabari, so just the fact that the Knicks are actually going to be, having home court advantage in a playoff series is just, it's been an amazing season, and I feel like the Knicks are playing with house money here. But I wouldn't be shocked at all if the Knicks win that series. They play such good defense. They have the home court. How do you see the first round matchup between the Knicks and the Hawks playing out?
The great Jason Concepcion, he's a great follow on Twitter. He kind of put it best the other week when he described playing the Knicks as it's about as difficult as moving yourself. It's always going to be more. Beating them is like just trying to move yourself. It's always going to be more difficult than you realize. You just alluded to it. They lock in, they play defense. They literally attack every single possession by possession. So beating them is going to be difficult. I could see them. Look, if Atlanta isn't hot, if they're able to neutralize kind of what Trey's Trey at the point of attack, I absolutely could see the Knicks winning that series.
The thing for the Knicks going forward, Jabari, is, have they played well enough now? Have they changed their reputation around the league where the next time, and it's going to happen at some point, that's how the NBA works, the next time there's that disgruntled superstar that wants out, the Knicks become a team that makes a lot of sense. They become a destination team, a destination franchise for the next disgruntled star that wants out of their current situation to go to a better situation.
I think they've done enough to raise some eyebrows, and look, I know nobody has gone there in quite some time, but all you have to do is win in a market like that, with a historical franchise like that, and people will be interested. Win a series, and it's a much easier conversation.
How significant is it, and we're talking with Jabari Ali Davis, he's the host of the Dunks and Discourse podcast, talking all things NBA with him. How significant is it in your mind, Jabari, that the Sixers finish as the 1 seed and they wouldn't have to see either Milwaukee or Brooklyn till the conference finals?
Well, it's absolutely. Look, like if you're the Sixers, you're looking at that and just smiling because look, as much as you want to be battle tested, you want to make sure you're at your best. You also don't necessarily want it to be a struggle all the way through, a slog all the way through every single series. So if you're the Sixers, you have to be happy about that breakdown.
Is there, you look at like the Western Conference here, and everyone's talking about LeBron, and we're talking about the Lakers going on another run, and it's like almost just like a foregone conclusion. Utah or Phoenix, they're not going to be able to, carry what they did in the regular season into the playoffs. Do you think maybe those teams are being disrespected nationally and we need to give them more credit and consider them legit title contenders?
Well, here's the deal. I give credit for when credit's due. They did a fantastic job in the regular season, but this is the postseason. And I am one of those individuals that while I respect those teams and I actually feel for them, especially potentially having to match up against say for instance the Lakers and Golden State respectively, or Golden State and the Lakers respectively. I guess if you're from a Lakers fan perspective, but I am in that boat of. Yes, I respect them. Yes, I anticipate them being difficult outs, but I kind of have to see it.
Who's the MVP of the league?
It's Nikola Jokic. And this is the thing. I understand, people get bored or people don't necessarily, love, the fact that it was almost a foregone conclusion from the start, with him. But you have to respect the consistency. You have to be able to appreciate. You have to show the appreciation for for the progression of his game, and the fact that look, when they lost Jamal Murray, a lot of us foolishly, maybe not you, you're one of the smarter ones. A lot of us, a lot of us idiots, we said okay, well, Denver's no longer a contender, and Michael Porter Jr. stepped up. They pulled the move for Aaron Gordon, and they're still right there in the mix. So for me. While yes, Embiid was impressive in the limited action, and yes, I appreciate what CP3 has done. I appreciate what other players have been able to do. Kawhi, nobody talks about him. Then the fact that he did, he put up another great year, and it was almost 50-40-90. But ultimately, Jokic was the best player on one of the best teams for the duration of the season.
Totally agree. And he stayed healthy, right? I mean, as great as Embiid was with the Sixers, they finished with the 1 seed. To me, he just missed too much time. I don't want to say you disqualify him from the reward, but I want to reward the guy that actually played in every single game, and that was Jokic.
If two players both were great and one player was only able to play about 55, 60% of the games, and the other player played a majority of the games, I'm going to lean towards the guy that played a majority of the games.
Totally agree. Jabari Ali Davis with us here. All right, finally, Jabari, give us your take. Playoffs. Who's winning the whole thing? Who do you have as the NBA champions when it's all said and done?
Jake, well, you affectionately reference yourself as a Knicks guy. I grew up in Los Angeles. I'm not, but here's the thing: I'm not actually being a homer. If those two guys are healthy, I do still feel like it's going to be difficult to beat LeBron James and Anthony Davis 4 times out of 7.
I'm with you. I just hope they stay healthy and we could get, maybe Nets, Lakers in the finals if that ends up being the matchup.
I would love it. Yes, please. Sign me up.
There you go. He's Jabari Ali Davis. You have to follow him on Twitter. You can find him there at Jabari Davis NBA. Listen to his podcast, Dunks and Discourse, is with the Blue Wire Podcast Network. Him and his co-host do an excellent job. Jabari, I appreciate you joining us this morning, man. Safe drive wherever you're headed, and we'll talk soon.
Absolutely my pleasure. Thank you.
Jabari Davis with us there on our Progressive guest line. Quoting your home insurance, it just got easier with Progressive's Home Quote Explorer. Quote and buy all online at progressive.com. Quick break, and we wrap up our show for a Wednesday. Jake Asman with you here on Sports Map Radio.